because there's a handful of classical pianists in the whole world, and there are millions of classical pianists, and we know it. You can have a classical piano recital every night with a new pianist. There are more classical pianists in the world than any other instrument. And all of them, a lot of them can play good too. But we should know, like the little young fellow, we should know movements. You should know that if a song, there are certain things that we should know. How to get to the 2, how to get to the 4, how to be deceptive, do the deceptive cadence. We should know that kind of stuff. We should know how to, because it's very important. You know, we should know all the same stuff that they knew almost. It's almost exactly the same. Really, the music is more classical. To me, the music is Western and Eastern. I think more Eastern is the rhythm, you know, which we haven't concentrated on enough, a lot of you. I know you haven't concentrated on rhythm, and yet rhythm rules the world. If one thing got off rhythmically, the whole universe would collapse. Everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. The sun revolves, all that stuff is rhythm. And we should think of rhythm. Like a lot of you, in order to really improvise, you got to think of rhythm. You got to think, ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-da, da-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-da. That sounds like bird. Ba-ba-doo-doo-doo-da, ba-ba-doo-doo-doo-da. But you say, ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-da, dee-dee-ba-doo-dee. There we go. Ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-da, dee-dee-ba-doo-dee. Hum it. Ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-da, dee-dee-ba-doo-dee. Now we got to play it. Dee-ba-doo-ba-doo-dee, dee-ba-doo-ba-doo. We got to play that rhythm. We got to learn to think that the rhythm is the most important thing, really. So that you'll play a pattern. You make a, see, sometimes I try to say it, because it's hard to tell. The hardest thing to tell is what comes first. Is the hands doing something that it's used to doing, or is the mind leading the hands? And that is the hardest thing to tell out of this whole thing, because the hands are like monsters, and they have a separate entity, and they like certain grooves. And if you aren't careful with the hands, they'll just play those grooves that they like. And you still might not, sometimes I think the closest I can come to it is if I think of rhythmic things, and just think of the rhythm. Don't think of notes to go with the rhythm. Just think of the rhythm. Then I think I come closest to being original if I think of the rhythm first. Without humming a note, it's hard to do too, to think of rhythm without humming a note. And then you got to make the notes fit the rhythm. And it might sort of get away from, and then again I see where you might can think a little bit ahead of what you're doing. It's weird. Let me give you an idea about rhythm. Rhythm. If we was gonna play, okay, let me see if I can do this. But see, I'm thinking of the rhythm. You got to think of the rhythm. And still I can't tell who's doing what. I can't tell if the fingers are leading me or I'm leading the fingers. You know, it's some hard shit to tell. But I think if you think of the rhythm, even when you're walking down the street The one thing you can think of that ain't got nothing to do with anything is rhythm. And so you should always be thinking of rhythm. Did do that. Did think of some of those bird tunes if you think about it. Like ba da dan do bida da bida. You know what we need is somebody to take a computer and you take one of those tunes and you don't put the sound, you just have a tit and this just so that you just could hear the rhythm, then we could start learning about rhythm. You know what I'm talking about? That's probably what really needs to be done. If you get away from the tonality and just hear what the rhythm sounds like.